In today's video, we'll be creating the file uploader component for our web app. This will implement step 1 of the upload image workflow, where we allow users to upload images. And we want to do the following things specifically. We want to restrict file types to only be images, so we don't want to allow videos, for example. And we also want to check that the file size is only a specific amount. And then we want to have a placeholder to generate the pre-signed URL and upload the images to S3. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to run npm run dev to start a local instance of my web app. This should pop up here. Nice. So then the first thing we want to do is to have a way for the user to upload an image. So let's see if Shadcn provides any functionality for this. Components, accordion, alert, avatar, input. Nice. File input. I think this is what I want. I want to have a component named FileUploader that will have this code here. So let me start doing that now, actually. And then I want to have a new file called FileUploader.tsx. So then here, I want to import this here. So now if I hot reload this, I should see a text file. Nice. So FileUploader, cannot find modules. So then I do need to import this. What is the command to do this? npx shadcn latest add input. So if I run this here, this should install all the dependencies. So the thing with Shadcn and component libraries is if you want to use this type of component here, you need to run this command here so that you can install it into your project. Created this file here, source components. And I believe this will just store any Shadcn native components. So then I can just import it directly here. So then I can choose a file and then I can do anything here. Nice. Nice. So if I do this and then I just click a screenshot here, I'll see that screenshot has been uploaded there. Nice. So now we need to restrict file types to a specific image. And then we also need a way to display the image. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Input type file. Is there anything else I can do with an input? I go here, component props, input. All right, let me just ask cursor here. Input ID image star. What the hell? Input takes in the TypeScript utility that extracts props. Oh, okay. This is a React wrapper around the native HTML input. So whatever I can pass into input here, I see. These are all the things that you can pass in the interface. My React knowledge is kind of lacking there, but so if I do something like disabled is equal to true, I will disable the file upload thing. So disabled is equal to true. So then if I go into my page, you see that it's disabled. And now that I'm only accepting images, if I go into my thing here, you see that these are all only image types here. Like if I go into my OBS, you see that all of my videos are blocked. So then this makes it so then that I can only upload images, which is exactly what I wanted. So let's try to display the image preview. So I want to get the image and the blob of it. So how do I do that? Do I display the uploaded image? Create input file type. What's image? Do I even need a file reader? I do need a way to do something like on upload, on change, handle file change. I want to create handle file change. Type error, function. Oh, I need this to be client. So use client. Use client, there you go. So the way Next.js works and server-side rendering works is that when you go onto the home page here, for example, this page.tsx, it's going to render all the HTML that you need on the server side. But if you need any user interaction, that needs to be done client side. So for example, when I upload an image, I want to trigger this method here. So any components that are client side, you have to label it with use client. Let me just run through what this file uploader component is doing here. So what it's doing is returning this React component here that has this header, and then we have an input here. So that input is going to be this guy right here, this choose file. And what it's doing is we're using Shadcn's component library, its input component. And as you saw from the documentation from earlier, an input can be a couple of different things. We wanted to use the file version of this input component specifically. And we want it so that we can only accept image types. And then we have an on change event here. It's going to take that file from the event. And if the file exists, it's going to create a file reader. Once it's done processing all of that, you set the state of the image to that process thing here. And then once set selected image is non-null, that means there's a value in there. You can now display this element here. All right, so now that we can display a preview of the image on the UI, I now want to restrict file size inputs to just a certain amount of megabytes. So here I'm thinking that I want to have some sort of alert. If file size is too big, render an alert here on the page. There's probably an alert component in Shadcn that I can use. I need to store some sort of state to determine if the file size is too big, and I need to check it on the file upload here. I believe the file object should have a size attribute here. So if file size may be greater than 5 megabytes. So if the file size is too big, then I set this state to true. And then here I want to have a component, but instead of this HTML, I do want to use a Shadcn component. Example, default destructive. I think I want to use this component here. So let's use this. So I want to install this component here. So let me go into here. Let me import the alert. Nice. So I added the alert component here. This should be added to here. Alert. So then if I go into my app, upload an image. So I want this to be a constant so then I can export it to other places. I don't like how I'm hard coding this here. Max file size number. And then here, max file size number. I need a way to make this file uploader component a lot more extensible than what it is currently, right? We're hard coding it to only allow image uploads. We're hard coding it to only allow a specific amount of file size. I want to pass an upload type to my file uploader here. It can dynamically add the different types of image checks that I want. It can have different types of file size. And most importantly, given a specific upload type, I can generate a pre-signed URL to that specific bucket. Let me just start off with the asset type because I like this. And then I want file loader props. And then I can just pass in asset type. So then now that I have a prop that I can pass my file uploader component, I need to update this to pass in asset type, RGB splitting. So then here for the max size, I want this to be, this should be asset type max size. Yes. Okay, I guess I do need an interface for that. So we want this to be AssetConfig of asset type accepted types join, and then this should still work because we only want images here. I only have images, but I can't do video. So now I'm not passing any hard-coded values into my file uploader component. Here I give it an asset type, and then whenever I upload a file, I'm checking my asset configuration of the size of this here. So I'm not hard coding it here. So depending on whether I do RGB splitting asset type or a filtering asset type or any other asset type, I'm getting that configuration from here. Now that I've extracted a lot of this code outside of the file uploader component, I think it's about time that I move this stuff into their own files and directories. So let me do that right now real quick. All right, so here I want to have my asset configurations, asset configs. I'm gonna paste this here, and then I also want to have asset type. So then here, asset type, RGB splitting. So then I can just delete all this here now, and then I can just import this. Okay, here I can get rid of this, and then I want to have a new file here, file validation.ts. And then here I want to do this check here. So export const validate asset size. So then here validate asset size. Export const get pre-signed URL. All right, what else am I missing here? So I refactored the hell out of my code. So let me explain what's going on here. So here on the home page, I added a file uploader component. And you see here that it takes in an asset type. So here, what this asset type does is it defines what I'm uploading onto the browser. So in this case, I want to do RGB splitting on this page. But in the future, if I want to do something like filtering, if I want to do something like image detection, if I want to do something like face morphing and all that stuff, all these asset types have specific configurations that they need for each type of file upload. They have different max sizes, they have different image types, and then all of them are stored in different bucket names and stuff like that. So I wanted to have some sort of constant that keeps track of all these configurations. And then the reason for this is when you pass that into your file uploader with an asset type, you can dynamically, depending on what asset that you're uploading, check specific things. So for example, for any type of image upload, we want to check if the size is valid. And then we also want to upload it to S3. So then here, if I have another asset type, something like filters, for example, I can set the max size here. And then in my file validation, it'll dynamically check that type of max size. And then here, when we generate the pre-signed URL as well, we can get the specific bucket name from our configuration here. So this just makes it so then that instead of having to copy and paste all this code for every type of asset type, we define it once for all asset types. So this makes it so that we don't repeat ourselves. So in the future, when we want to add another asset type, we just add in another one here into the asset type here. And then we add another configuration here with the max size, accepted types, and the bucket names. So this makes it very easy to onboard new asset types in the future. So with that, I think we've completed everything that we needed to do in terms of enabling a file uploader component. So we now have a streamlined way to reuse a lot of the logic that we just implemented to allow for different asset types in the future. And in the next video, I think we're going to start creating those S3 buckets so then that we can actually upload those images onto S3 and then pull them from S3 as well. So with that, hope you learned something new, and take care.